Hello and welcome to our first class on essential oils and their safety and uses. Today we are going to start off with the history of essential oils. Before we start talking about history, I want to quickly go over what we will be learning in the class, what our lessons are going to be. So let's look at that. So we have 6 lessons that we are going to learn about in this course. As I mentioned today, we're going to talk about the history of essential oil use. In our next class, we're going to talk about essential oils and emotions. We are going to talk about essential oils around the house. We're going to talk about essential oils and how we can use them in our food. We're also going to discuss the topical applications of essential oils. Our final project will be a presentation and review, and that will be our last class. So we have a lot of fun classes ahead of us. Now let's go ahead and let's get started talking about the history of essential oils. So first, it's a good idea for us to kind of get to know what essential oils are. So essential oils are what are called a hydrophobic liquid that contain the volatile aroma of a plant. So this is a very technical definition. Sometimes they're known as volatile oils, sometimes they're known as ethereal oils, sometimes they're known as ethereola. So what does that all mean, right? So what it means, the essential oils are made from the essence of the plant and they contain the characteristic scent of the plant from which they were derived. So they smell like the plant that they came from. Um, so that's kind of a very technical definition of what they are, but it gives you a better idea of exactly what they are composed of. So let's talk about how they're used. So essential oil use nowadays is very, very widespread. We see it used in perfumery, we see it used in aromatherapy and alternative therapies, in culinary applications. Um, and so because we see them so frequently nowadays, uh, sometimes we run into products that are not real essential oils. Um, so there's a little bit of a test that you can do. It's the coffee filter test. If you take a coffee filter and you put a drop of your essential oil on the coffee filter, it's not going to leave a greasy spot on your coffee filter. Um, if there's just a scented oil, it's not an actual essential oil, or a blended oil. Sometimes we have oil blends and they have carrier oils in them, which we'll talk about in depth later in the course. Uh, those are going to leave a spot on the filter and going to know that those are not true essential oils. So that's a little bit of a fun experiment for you to try this week as you're getting to know your essential oils. So now that we know what essentials are by definition, how they're used, and how to tell what you have, now that we know a little bit about what essential oils are, let's talk about how they're made. So there are 4 common ways to make essential oils. The most common is through distillation. And the process of distillation often results in a byproduct that's called a hydrosol. So if you've ever heard of a hydrosol before, this is actually a byproduct of distillation. The next method that we often see used to make essential oils is expression. All expression uh, is pressing the plant material in order to extract the oils. We commonly see this used for citrus oils, lemon, orange, things like that. Now, if the plant material is too delicate or has too little volatile oil, a chemical solvent is often used to extract um, the essence of the plant, um, and it's usually we use something like supercritical carbon dioxide, hexane, ethyl alcohol. Some are better than others at this. Another way that essential oils are made is through a process called enfleurage. Also, sometimes you see absolutes. This is one of the oldest methods of making essential oils, of extracting essential oils. Involves layers of plant material and fat pressed between glass. And it works, but it's rather an inefficient and antiquated method, so not one we see too often anymore. Typically, we see distillation and expression, and occasionally solvents, um, and sometimes enfleurage, but or absolutes. But these are how they're made. Let's get into some of the history of essential oils from ancient times to modern day. So scent has been used in various forms for thousands and thousands of years. Um, we are very highly uh, attuned to scent, not so much as other animals perhaps, but definitely scent has an effect on us as humans. Um, Babylonians actually perfumed the mortar of their buildings with it, so the scent would be all around them in their buildings. And entire trade routes were based on the trade of aromatic substances. The incense route in through Saudi Arabia and Jordan and Israel is a great example of this. So scent has always played this huge role in our lives as humans. And then in the 14th, 15th, and 16th centuries is when we really started to see recipes for essential oils being published in Herbal. So an Herbal is a book about herbs, obviously. And so we started to see these really come into popularity around the 14th, 15th, and 16th centuries. But this idea of using scent to better our lives has been around for thousands and thousands of years. So let's see a little bit more modern picture of how the huge essential oil market that we see today has kind of come into being. So there's a man named Rene Gadafoss, and he is considered to be the father of modern aromatherapy. He worked in a perfumery, and he discovered the healing properties of lavender essential oil. And the story goes that the way that he did it, he was working in his laboratory, and he was working with some type of equipment that involved fire or flame. He burned himself, and he looked for the closest vat of liquid around that he could find to dunk his burned hand in, and that happened to be a vat of lavender oil. And he noticed over the next several weeks as the burn began to heal that it healed at a faster rate than than otherwise he would have thought. And so he began to kind of experiment with this idea of essential oils being used for something other than perfumery, for using burns, things like that. And lavender oil does work really, really well for burns and skin issues. I keep a bottle of it usually in my kitchen for little minor cooking accidents. He also wrote the book Aromatherapy in 1937, and this is the first time we really see the use of the word aromatherapy in either spelling, P-Y or P-I-E. So Gadafoss is really, really the man who paved the way for the things that we see with essential oils today. So now we've kind of got a little better picture of what essential oils are, how they're made, and how they came to be what we see them as today. I'm going to talk a little bit about uses and give you some safety guides before we wrap up for the day. So I have here a list of 10 essential oils. If you are just starting out with essential oils, you have no experience whatsoever, you don't have any essential oils. These are really the first 10 that are a good idea to get. You will notice that I have put the common name and the botanical name of the plant as well. And this is important because sometimes we have essential oils that are made, the plant itself might have one common name, or it might have many common names, but it's only going to have one botanical name, so we know what it is. Eucalyptus is an example of this. So what we call eucalyptus can come from two different plants, Eucalyptus radiata, Eucalyptus globulus. Chamomile is the same. There's German chamomile and Roman chamomile, Anthemis nobilis, Matricaria chamomilla. Okay, they're going to have similar properties, but they're not going to be exactly the same. So you do want to pay attention when you're going out to buy your essential oils. You want to make sure that you know the difference. With chamomile and eucalyptus, it doesn't matter so much. One that we sometimes get into problems with is lavender. Lavender is probably one of the most highly adulterated, meaning that things are added to it or things were put in it that aren't actually lavender or different types of lavender. This is one you really want to watch. Lavandula angustifolia, when you go and get it, is what you want. There's another type called lavandin. Lavandin is similar, but it's not the same. And lavandin is a harsher essential oil. So when you're buying lavender, you do want to kind of keep an eye on this. So that's why we talk about our common names and our botanical names, and it is something that you do want to note. So just to kind of quickly, I've gone over a little bit of this list. Lemon, one of the best oils to have around is lemon. I use it in my kitchen all the time for cleaning, and things like that. Clove is another good one to have. Lavender, of course, we talked about just a little bit. Eucalyptus is a good one. It works well for congestion and things like that. Tea tree oil is often good for different skin things. Sometimes you do have to be careful with it because some people are sensitive to it, but overall it's a really, really good one for different skin issues. Used with a carrier, of course, we're going to talk in depth about carrier oils later in the class. Peppermint's just a wonderful scent. It's this wonderful uplifting, brightening scent. Chamomile's a relaxing scent, kind of on the other side of this. Frankincense is such a wonderful, rich scent. It tends to be one of the more expensive oils, but definitely well worth it. Ginger and rosemary are both good ones to have as well. And with just these 10, this kind of gives you a good rounding out of oils to work with, to kind of start with. So if you haven't started building your essential oil kit yet, this is a great, great place for you to start. All right, so before we wrap up today, let's talk a little bit about safety. So I touched on this a little bit when we talked about lavender, but one of the most important things to really pay attention to when you are working with essential oils is that you're buying from a brand that you know and that you trust. There are a lot of adulterated essential oils out there. Things are added to them. They're not what they say they are. They're replaced with a different plant. So this is something you really do want to watch. There are a lot of really great brands out there, and I'm not partial to one or the other. But I do advise knowing the company that you're buying from. If you can find somebody that does it on their own and that makes their own, even it's from a small setting, that's really, really great too. So another thing, this is probably the second most important thing. So once you have your essential oils, always, 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 always dilute your essential oils with a carrier of some time. There are a few exceptions to this, but as a rule, you want to dilute your essential oils. Essential oils are so concentrated that you can really kind of hurt yourself if you aren't paying attention to what you're doing and you're putting it directly on your skin. So always use a carrier oil, and we will talk more about this as we go through this class. As I just mentioned, that this brings us even to our next thing is don't put undiluted oils directly on your skin. You can burn yourself. Um, you really do want to watch this. I've done this before myself with really not good results. So trust me on this. You always want to put uh, diluted oils on your skin. Don't put undiluted oils on your skin. You want to avoid getting essential oils in or near mucous membranes, things like your eyes or your nose or your mouth. You want to keep your essential oils away from that. They can burn your mucous membranes because, again, your essential oils are so strong. Another thing that some people, so we've been using our essential oils and we've been using them for a while. Um, they're great and all, but I have 3 or 4 different essential oil diffusers around my house. One thing you need to watch out with those diffusers is that you need to make sure that they are well cleaned, because otherwise they grow mold, they grow fungus, and then when you go to use your essential oils, you're putting that stuff out into the air. We don't want that. Uh, if you are using essential oils in food, be sure that they are able to mix well with the food or liquid that you are using. You don't want to ingest a glop of essential oil and then it can burn your esophagus, it can burn your stomach. It's not good for you at all. Usually oils, fats, dairy, things like that tend to be able to blend our essential oils into our food very well. And again, we'll talk about that when we talk about food and our essential oils. Another thing, this is a personal pet peeve of mine. Please don't use essential oils in your water. They do not disperse. They can cause some stomach irritation. They can cause mouth irritation. They can cause esophagus irritation. Um, this is really never a good idea. And if you use this, you can do a test. You can take your glass of water, and people like to do this with lemon oil. Take your lemon oil, put that lemon oil on your water, see if it blends in. It doesn't blend in, and you can shake it, shake it, shake it. You're still going to ingest a glop of essential oil when you're drinking that water. So like I said, this is a personal pet peeve of mine. So don't use essential oils in your water. You can cause a bit of damage there. All right, so that's a little bit about safety. All right, so the last thing I want you to do today before you finish up the lesson, I have a video for you on lavender pillow spray. The link for that video is in your lesson for this week. And this is a great recipe. I love this. I use it on my bed. I use it under the covers. I use it on my pillow. And it's just very relaxing and can help you kind of get a better night's sleep. So go ahead and watch that video. And this is our class for the week. I will see you all next week. Our next class is going to be on essential oils and emotions. So I will see you then. Bye-bye.